In Rareware's catalog of N64 games, there are tons of super unique, fun, and even epic boss fights. Things ranging from pieces of cardboard to a witch in a giant drill machine. Lots of creativity and interesting choices, but which bosses really have left a lasting impact on me, being the massive Rare fan as I am? It's no surprise you're probably going to see several from Banjo and DK on this list, since those are my personal favorites, and let's be honest, probably the best. But I do have a few not from those series, and number one will probably surprise you. But anyways, let's get into it. Here are my 10 most favoritist boss fights in Rare games on the N64. Number 10, Lurg, Jet Force Gemini. Lurg was a disgusting giant robotic slug insectoid monster. Yeah, you heard that right. The fight takes place on a moving platform over lava, so you know the stakes are high. Not only did this boss have a towering stature over you, but I love the fact it dropped maggots on you that explode. The fight itself was honestly pretty straightforward. You see the obvious weak points and target them. I always appreciated that this boss isn't too challenging. Unlike some other bosses in this game, Lurg felt a lot more balanced to me. And the noises Lurg makes are disgusting and so memorable. The fight sticks in my head just because of the grossness and exploding maggots really, and it's very satisfying when defeated. Overall, a pretty solid fight, and my favorite from Jet Force Gemini. Number 9, King K. Rool DK64. DK64's final boss fight is the culmination of everything you've been building up to in your adventure. It may be a little out of left field with how silly it is, since every boss fight prior has been more on the serious side, at least to a point, even if the boss himself is on the sillier side. The utilization of the special moves of every single Kong of the DK crew, I think, is what makes this fight stand out. Diddy has to fly up and hit the lights with his jetpack and pop guns. Tiny has to shrink down and enter his shoe and shoot his feet. Stuff like that just makes it feel like you've been practicing for this fight the whole game, which I love. And it's really the only boss where you utilize every single Kong like this. With the exception of the cardboard cutout K. Rool, but the Kongs are used more as lives than utilizing their abilities in that one. The boxing aesthetic and over-the-top cartooniness of this fight also make it stand out. The best part about this is we don't have to rely on Netflix's servers to see the outcome of this one, even though we all know there will be a clear winner. Number 8, Poppet and Reagan, Conker's Bad Fur Day. So at first glance you think, hey, this is going to be us rescuing a cute little squirrel, and then bam, we get hit by this monstrosity and an Exorcist reference. This fight was just so bizarre and entirely unique. What other game would you fight a giant teddy bear that has robotic spidery legs and weaponry with a squirrel acting like a puppet on his hand? It's so bizarre, and the fight itself is actually pretty fun with some epic tank action and high stakes. It doesn't let you rest for a second though, and you have to stay on your toes, but this fight is an epic conclusion to the war chapter in Conker. I only wish I could say I enjoyed escaping the area after the fight. That was frickin' hard. Number 7, Wizpig First Race, Diddy Kong Racing. You race Wizpig twice in this game, but that first race, it's just iconic. The epicness of the storm and the menacing laughter of the giant Wizpig as he races you on foot, it's terrifying. And if you don't know the boosting trick, you could get stuck in this race for a long time. It definitely sticks out in my memory as the most memorable boss fight in Diddy Kong Racing. And to be honest, most of those boss fights are pretty memorable. Wizpig just feels like he could smush you at any second, and that makes me want to go fast. Number 6, Mr. Patch, Banjo Tooie. Witchy World is arguably one of the best worlds in Banjo Tooie. It really shines in the vibes department. A cheat carnival with gross food and minigames? Okay, sounds good. But then you get to the boss, and this boss didn't need to go this hard. Mr. Patch starts as a big green lump on the ground and inflates into quite the boss fight experience. There was just something so satisfying about hitting his patched up areas and producing a hole that leaks air and makes him smaller. I freaking loved it. Even though flying and aiming isn't always the easiest thing, it certainly was an interesting and different way to fight a boss in a 3D platformer, while still feeling right at home in Banjo-Kazooie's world. Also, they know what they were doing when they put this here. Number 5, Mad Jack DK64. No boss is more menacing in DK64 than Mad Jack. This fight is an absolutely epic one. What's not to love? It's got a super spooky atmosphere, The boss himself would scare the pants off any kid, and it utilizes a unique move from a unique Kong. Not too many fights do that in DK64. I always appreciated this boss, even though it gave me a feeling of dread as I ponytail twirl away from it. I mean, when it starts picking up speed, but I never wavered and eventually conquered it. Though, when I was younger, I definitely was afraid of this one. Number 4, Mingy Jongo, Banjo Tooie. Mingy Jongo, the shaman impersonator. This is one of, if not my favorite fight from Banjo Tooie. Not only is this character scary, but he gets you with a jump scare if you aren't an eagle-eyed fan. Sometimes, even if you are. The fact that they took a friendly in a game and gave us an evil twin that pretends to be him is probably why I had some trust issues growing up. As you hit him, he starts losing his Mumbo outfit and reveals the creepy endoskeleton underneath. This enemy was scary. What I love about the gameplay here though, is it's one of those fights that as you get good at the game, you could potentially beat it really quickly. I love when skill is rewarded like that, and it's very satisfying to chip away all his pieces. And it's so cool how we can visit him as Mumbo and he just stays sleeping there in the chair. This could easily confuse players who don't know, or accidentally go to the wrong Mumbo house when taking Mumbo back. It may be enough to strike their curiosity and suck them into the fight. Number 3, King Cutout. Now I debated between Mad Jack and King Cutout as my favorite DK64 boss fight, but in the end, at least at this moment, I had to go with King Cutout, simply because the premise of this fight is just so silly. A giant pieced together piece of cardboard looking like our main enemy with a high-pitched yell. We're coming out of the serious and somewhat spooky level of Creepy Castle, and we get a silly boss fight like this? Plus in this fight we use all the Kongs and potentially can lose them, making the tag barrel show a question mark. It's legitimately freaky and gives you this feeling of anxiety. Like, oh man, I need to hit the right cutout and not the fake one, or else my Kong is gone. This boss might not be real, but the stakes are. Number 2, Gruntilda Winky Bunyan. Ah yes, Gruntilda Winky Bunyan. No one can deny the epicness of that first fight with Grunty and Banjo-Kazooie. It's probably the best fight in the series. It's not easy and it gives you a reason to go back and collect things to get the health upgrade just before. The fight essentially uses every skill you have and even adds the epic and almighty Jinjonator to finish her off. I loved how it incorporated the Jinjos into the fight. Everything about this fight from start to finish is filled with charm, and boy oh boy is it satisfying to knock that witch off her tower. But what other fight in all of Rare's catalog on N64 could top this fight, you ask? Well, I only have one answer, which leads me to my number 1, the Great Mighty Pooh. Come on, you should have seen this coming. The Great Mighty Pooh is the most epic boss fight maybe in the history of gaming. I can't think of one single boss I have ever liked more than this one. It's such a silly premise and it basically encapsulates everything I love about Rare. The charm, the silliness, and the poop jokes. Plus it has the most epic theme song of any boss fight ever at the same time. Name something better than a giant poop monster opera singing to introduce himself.
I am the Great Mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A huge supply of tish comes from my chocolate starfish. How about some scat, you little trash?
And not to mention, to beat him, we throw toilet paper in his mouth until we can flush him. What an epic fight indeed. Even the story of the creation of the Great Mighty Pooh is hilarious. Literally, Chris Marlowe took a big dump and showed the guys, and they thought a big Pooh would be a funny boss. It's a little more than that, but it basically sums it up. This is the best boss in Rare games on the N64. Do you agree with my list? Are there some bosses you love that weren't on here? Let me know your top boss fights in the comments. And with that, that's all I have for you. I hope you'll please drop a like to help spread my content. It really helps me out. And please subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss a future upload. Until next time, have a good one. Jiggylookback!